In the next series of clips, what we're going to look at is some of the tools that are available and some of the adaptations you can make to make life easier. I'm going to start with how you wrap thread, moving from the very basic through to hand wrappers, and then on to a commercial rod building lathe. And a very simple and effective way of making a rest is to get a standard empty cardboard box. Cut a V in one corner and the opposing corner. Then place the rod from corner to corner. You have a stable and firm rest for the blank. Your spooler thread goes into the box because that will let it run around in the box than all over the floor getting dirty and contaminated. And as before, I'm rolling with my left hand and controlling the thread with my right. I do the crossover. A couple of locking turns and off we go. The advantage of this is that you can hold the blank in place with the outside of your hand, use your fingers and thumb to hold the thread in place. Your right hand can pick up any tool you might need to do the next stage of the wrapping, or even answer the phone if the phone rings, if it's to hand. Then you can come back and carry on where you left off. So a very simple cardboard box rod rest. The next stage up from the cardboard box is the commercially made hand wrapper. This basically is set up with a baseboard and spool holder. Notice the spool holder has a spring tensioner on the end so you can control the tension of the thread, and two V blocks, one each side. The holes in the baseboard allow you to set the distance you want between the two V blocks. On one end you have a Velcro strap so that when you lay your rod in, you can just have something to secure it in place. Your thread comes off the spool carrier, under the hook and up to the blank. Theoretically you can slide the hook to whatever position you want to work in. As before, I'm rolling with my left hand and checking the thread with my right. Just tighten the tension up to start with, do the first couple of turns, and immediately you notice, because it's on a hand wrapper, my right hand comes into play and I can use that to help turn the rod. If I want to stop and maintain tension, just the outside of the hand, and this time the index finger is holding it in place. If I want, I can use the middle finger and then have the index and thumb to actually do something else as I'm working. Or use the right hand to bring in a tool to cut off the tag end, and then just continue wrapping. So that's the elementary use of a hand wrapper. Clearly it's like having a third hand. It gives you much more flexibility when you're working. The last piece of equipment in this section is the professional rod lathe. This lathe is in fact a Clemens, is now about 20 years old, hence it's got a few scuffs and marks on it, and the baseboard I carry it on is well and truly strewn with general debris from the workshop. Very simply, you have an aluminium bed. This bed actually extends to a total of 12 feet. You have the rod rests, you have the thread carriage, and you have the motor, or motor and chuck. This has a maximum speed of 5,000 RPM. If you wonder where I use 5,000 RPM, I can actually turn cork grips on this. I tend not to, because it's in the same part of the workshop where I do thread work, so I do not want too much cork dust in the area. So the turning is like hands free. I don't have any control everything with my foot. So we'll put a piece of rod section in, go up the chuck, make certain it's straight. This rest down a little bit. In place, in place. Now this blank will turn very stably up to the maximum revs that I want to use. The thread carriage at the front, or back to me, for me the back, but at the front from the camera angle, as you can see, can carry up to 8 spools of thread. I've cleared a few off, and now we're just going to use one thread at a time, putting it through under the first tensioner, and this to me is the ideal piece. It's a piece of sprung wire and will keep the thread under tension permanently whilst the thread is connected to the rod. Again, we do our standard crossover. You'll note that I do the first 2 turns by hand because I want to get this stable and right. Come in with the snips, snip the end off. The big advantage is if you're doing an under wrap on a guide, you can cover a lot of area very, very quickly. And there we are. Put my loop in as previous when I've been hand wrapping. Cut, end through the loop, pull back down, trim, and done. And that's the advantage of a power wrapper like this. If you're doing a lot of very big rods where you're doing under wraps, you can lay the under wraps on very neatly, very tidily, very quickly.